Now, the big question is, beyond the buzz, beyond the excitement of this ongoing event, how can Enugu turn this visibility into real growth? What opportunities can it unlock, and what gaps must be addressed if we are to truly achieve the $30 billion economy target? Joining me now to answer this is Ikechukwu Nwosu, the business analyst and tech entrepreneur. You're welcome in the program.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you
Thank
here.
you.
So how do you feel, before we go into the main discussion, how do you feel about the mini Mami market that was brought to Para Square?
Wow, it's amazing, just like the conversation we were having before we started. When I think about the conference, that's what came to my mind, because thinking about it, the proximity between the conference center and Bara Square makes Bara Square actually a dome where, something like a Mami market would actually flourish. So it's a very good idea, and I'm happy it's actually what happened.
Hosting over 20,000 lawyers in Enugu'S state and, other dignitaries, even global dignitaries, is no small feat at all. How, beyond the excitement, beyond the buzz, how does this practically contribute to the Enugu'S $30 economy targets the governor is aiming at?
Okay, that's really an amazing opportunity for the government, because looking at the theme of the conference, it says stand out, stand tall. Enugu over the past 2 years has been showing that it can actually stand out. So within this past 2 years, the government has actually made a lot of effort to prepare itself for an event like this. Because I recall one of the interviews with the Secretary to Government, he said that from the onset, they were already preparing for events like this, even before the event was finally approved. So that shows that the government had the foresight to think of the future, to prepare itself for big events like this, and having over 20,000 lawyers. And we know lawyers are professionals, they are really people who are good at what they do, and a lot of them are business people as well. So such amount of lawyers coming into Enugu is an opportunity for the state to showcase itself. A lot of things are already showcasing the state. For example, the conference center, which was a moribund asset. When the governor came in, he had to start revitalizing a lot of it. So with these lawyers in town, you can be sure that hospitality is going to really be boosted. And we know hospitality is big in Enugu. We have hotels, and we have our beloved Hotel Presidential, which was just reopened just before the conference. So going by this, hospitality is going to bring in a lot of revenue, because a lot of these lawyers, obviously, they'll be lodging in hotels. So even apart from the Hotel Presidential, you are going to also see a lot of other hotels, a lot of other eateries, a lot of other restaurants benefiting from this. And ultimately, they are reverting the revenues in terms of the taxes and every other thing back to the government. So that will also help to improve the projection, or to actualize the projection of the government for their $30 billion projection.
Yeah, still in line with that, we've already seen quick gains in hospitality, like you mentioned. We've seen in aviation as well. What new opportunities do you see this unlocking in other sectors? What sectors do you see coming out of this MBA conference?
Okay, well, I see sectors, even education, for example. Why do I say that? Because I was opportune, or I was returning back to Enugu from Port Harcourt on Sunday. To my surprise, because I took one of the famous transport companies back to Port Harcourt, to my surprise, I was the only one in that bus that wasn't a lawyer. So everybody in the bus were all lawyers, and most of them have not visited Enugu before. So when we came into Enugu, a lot of them were like, wow, Enugu is beautiful. Enugu is great. I didn't know Enugu was like this. So them coming in, and like I said earlier, a lot of them probably have businesses. A lot of them are business-minded. So they'll start seeing opportunities in Enugu, in areas like hospitality, like I talked about earlier, even in education. Looking at the smart schools that we have in Enugu, people could start having ideas on how they can plug into the smart schools. What sort of solutions can they bring in? In areas, even the legal sector, which is their sector. Because I was listening to the governor in his speech at the conference. He was talking about how the government has tried to really turn around the justice sector in Enugu, computerizing it and doing all that. So A lot of these lawyers are big lawyers in Lagos, in Abuja. A lot of those innovations, they are already integrating it in wherever they are. So looking at Enugu, they might start getting ideas on how they can bring in such innovations down to Enugu. And as well, other people who are looking at Enugu but are not very sure, if they find themselves in Enugu now, I believe they'll be more convinced to invest in whichever sector that they feel like, because Enugu is ripe for business as it is now.
You know, in everything we do, in every development, every big vision, there are hurdles.
Yeah.
We see challenges. What challenges do you foresee in this? And, you know, how can the state government close the gaps? Challenges, gaps, and how can it be addressed quickly?
Okay, well, the challenges in terms of investments, let me use investments, right? Challenges are usually government policies. How friendly are they to investors? In Enugu, looking at how the state has focused on, first of all, revitalizing moribund assets, you know, fixing the fundamentals, which are like infrastructure, which we see all over the place, how the government is really trying to fix infrastructure. These are some of the challenges that an investor, when he sees it, he might not be interested. But looking at Enugu and how some of these things are gradually being fixed in Enugu, you know, being put together, it can now become a way for them to see, okay, if I bring my investments in, the government looks like they are forward thinking and there's a level of continuity. Because a government that comes in and looks at infrastructure that have been abandoned and decides to revitalize them, that means it has continuity in mind. Even when they go, you know, there's a possibility of that kind of strategy being continued. So I believe in terms of the hurdles, government policies, as well as, you know, generally things like security, which I think Enugu is also doing very well in terms of security. Because any investor that comes into your city would like for his investments to be secure. So these are hurdles, but good enough, the state is actually doing a lot to fix some of these things as well. And then generally the mindset of the people, how they embrace investments, how they embrace new ideas, new concepts. Enugu people, in a way, have a bit of a slow approach to embracing new things. But once it comes in and the people see that these innovations, these investments are actually benefiting them, they are good for them, people buy into it really, really fast, you know. So I think these are some of the challenges, these are the hurdles, and like I already mentioned, government is already putting things in place to make sure that some of these things are already being sorted out, at least to a large extent. It's just 2 years in office, basically. So I'm sure there will be a lot more the government can do to prepare the ground for investors.
Yeah, while you were talking, you said one of the challenges is the mindset of Enugu residents. Because when I was having a conversation with Mr. Okenwa yesterday, he also mentioned the same thing,
Okay.
that he was expecting the government should, you know, should have sensitized residents so they don't give some kind of perception to, you know, our visitors in the state. So what should the government do? I want to get your own opinion, you know, to address this.
Okay, I think, first of all, there is this mindset of this is our state. You know, we need to embrace anything good coming to the state. And any right-thinking person would know that this kind of conference is actually a very good thing for the state, because it's more like bringing people from different states, people that have never been to Enugu but have ideas in mind. They are looking at Southeast, where can I put my investments and all that. So, you know, the government needs to actually sensitize, like you use the word sensitize the people on the need for an open mind when it comes to new things, investments. You see how real estate is opening up in Enugu because people are now seeing, wow, this is a sector that can blossom in this city. So other sectors, education, ICT, which I think the government is also doing really well, you know, healthcare, you know, every other sector, actually, the government needs to find a way, you know, using its machineries like orientation agency, Ministry of Information, just be creative about these things, you know, invest some resources into it to make sure that people are aware that the state actually needs influx of investors. The government can only do so much, but if if the investors are not welcome, they may not last, or they may not even come at all. So it's good to always send out that message that these investments coming in is for the good of all of us in Enugu, to improve our IGR, and in return, the state is using the IGR to improve your lives. So once the government keeps sending that message through some of these mediums I've mentioned, that would also help as well, I believe.
Talking about investments in the Southeast, it looks like Enugu is now in the spotlight, and would say Enugu is having more attention or getting more attention than other Southeastern states. What would you say is the problem?
Do you mean in terms of the attention it's getting? Or?
No, I mean, we are getting more attention because of the infrastructures here. You see investors coming into Enugu recently, this new administration. We've not really had much happening in other Southeastern states. What would you say the problem is?
Okay, I think it comes down to the government in power. The government needs to set that tone that we are here to make a change, that, things are going to change. We want to make an impact, be it building infrastructures, all sorts of infrastructures like we have in Enugu. The government needs to constantly, give that impression that it's forward thinking, that it's here for the people, not here for themselves. And I think that's one thing Enugu government is trying to do. It's always, as you can see, most of its efforts are showing that, And the government came in and took on this very aggressively so that everybody's seeing what the government intends to do. Because if a government comes in and they don't give that impression of, we are here to work for you, and we've already hit the ground running, people will just think it's business as usual, the same old thing over and over again. But I'll give kudos to other states as well. They're trying their best.
I was going to ask you, so are you saying other Southeast governors are not showing the forward-thinking attitude or mindset?
No, I'm not saying that. At least we see Afia states, some of these states have gone through a lot in the past. So a lot of these governors coming in, they have a lot of work to do. A lot of those works are in the background. People are not really seeing it because you need to build the foundation properly. So a lot of these governors, for example, in Afia State, I know there's a lot that has gone wrong in the past. So the government, I believe, is trying to really do those things that went wrong, to do them right, and so that the people will gradually start seeing it. So, but I'm not saying that the states are not doing well, but there's a thing about Enugu. Enugu has always been the capital of Southeast from the beginning. And that has always given Enugu an edge in everything, the airports, the idea of the coal city, the coal in Enugu, and the colonial masters who actually came in and built a lot of things and before they left in Enugu. So Enugu is well positioned, if in my view, compared to other states, the positioning of Enugu, the advantages is enjoying. That's actually what I think that is making Enugu look like it's standing out. But other states, I give kudos to them.
You said other states, you mentioned, we're talking about Southeastern states, you mentioned Enugu, you mentioned Afia. And, someone that is not in Nigeria that doesn't know the states we have here in the Southeast would think we'll have just Enugu and Afia states. Yes. So what's wrong with the other states that you didn't mention? Well, are they not doing well?
Like I said, all of them are doing well in their own respect. But like I also said, the posture of the government really matters. I know Anambra State, a lot of things are going on there in terms of infrastructure. I hear a lot of infrastructure being put up, but I think the governments in those states really need to focus on things that directly impact the people. Because when you build infrastructure, for example, you're building government house or doing all those things, it's for the states, but it's not directly impacting the people. You're building infrastructure that are just for the government's image, not really for the people. So I hear some of those things that some of those states are doing. Most infrastructure that states need to build, for me, if I'm to advise them, they need to focus on infrastructures that directly impact the people. Do your analysis. Before you even came into power, you should have done your analysis, looked at the state, looked at where you should focus on, that will directly impact the people.
What kind of infrastructures?
Of course, road infrastructure, healthcare, education. Health centers in most states are not really as awesome as it should be in Southeast. I don't know if you agree with me. You know, the rural health centers and all that. These are where governors should focus on, you know. I'm not saying that states are not doing well in those areas, but this should be priority. Education. When states go into building smart schools, there's something that such a state is seeing. You're not just building smart schools so that you can come out in the news. You're building smart schools because you're preparing the young people for the future. A smart school is a school that is future-proof. You do your AI, robotics, mechatronics. These are future technologies. So when you focus on these things, you're building the children so that in the next 10 years, in the next 5 years, actually, AI is meant to contribute about $20 trillion to the global economy. So if you build schools with old, chalkboard and all those things, you're not preparing the children for the future. Because these children should be given a future that is really forward-thinking. So states that are going to smart schools, it's the way to go. Yeah, a lot of people will say, the amount of money invested and all that, but these are future-proof innovations and strategies. So sectors like that are sectors that I believe state government should focus on. You know, I mentioned education, I mentioned healthcare, even the judiciary, whom we have their lawyers in Enugu now. You know, if a state gives the right signal to the judiciary sector, that means the judiciary sector will see the state as a judiciary-friendly state. That means law and order will be flowing. So all these things are kind of interlinked in one way or the other. So I feel there's a lot to do, but a lot of the states are actually doing their best.
All right, thank you for sharing that. Now, Governor Peter Mbah has said he wants to move the state from $4.4 billion to $30 billion. The NBA conference, is this a path to the $30 billion economy?
Yes, it is. In fact, it's an amazing path to the $30 billion economy. How would you make the money if there is no revenue coming into your state? So conferences like this, like we talked about the hospitality sector, you know, when you're prepared for conferences like this, your hotels are going to be patronized, your restaurants are going to be patronized, the eateries are going to be patronized, even the small businesses, the local businesses, like you saw in the report, the Mami Market at Obara Square. These are people, whatever revenue they make from there, somehow it's coming back to the government. So it's actually a good idea for such a conference to happen now as a pathway for the government to get to its target of $30 billion US.
All right, before we let you go, Mr. Ikechukwu, which area do you think the government should focus on? I mean, we can see the state is opening, is developing, faster than we even think. Which areas do you think the government should focus on, government of Enugu State should focus on to attract more conferences like this and, more investors into the state?
Okay, first of all, provide facilities that can encourage people that have such conferences to come to Enugu. Because I know that the International Conference Center was actually built and it has a hotel, conference center hotel just beside it. So these are attractions that can make somebody, okay, I want to host an event. Now, there's a conference center, it has hotels all around, good hotels. I didn't even mention Nike Lake Resort Hotel, which we all know that is I don't know if it's 5-star now, but it's actually one of the places that I know that will generate a lot of revenue. So put up the facilities. It must not be only the International Conference Center. There can be others. They can be built by the government or by private individuals with the support and encouragement of the government. So if the facilities are there for things like that, make the state a conference-friendly state in terms of the facility, in terms of the transportation infrastructure. Thank God we have two aircrafts now, the Enugu Air. We have a fully functional airport. So there are so many things that Enugu is blessed with. And if it keeps harnessing that, keeps looking inwards, I'm sure there will be much more coming up even beyond the International Conference Center, that will make Enugu a conference-friendly state. You see a lot of people coming into Enugu to run their conferences.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ikechukwu, for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
The MBA conference is still ongoing, and we'll keep giving you updates in subsequent bulletins. And that's the much we can take on the Eastern Business Report today. Till I see you at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Afia Business Morning. I am Marvelous Apuamaga. Do enjoy the rest of your day.